Hi. George Gascon was recently invited to my alma mater, the UCLA School of Law, to talk about criminal justice issues. And he was asked the following thoughtful question.
Question about guns. That apparently like a UCLA staff member was robbed at gunpoint. But then one of the sentencing enhancements you got rid of was gun use. I'm wondering, does it make sense to call for new gun laws if you're not using the ones that are already there?
So that was a great question. The gentleman asked, what's the point of passing new gun laws when your office isn't even prosecuting the laws that are already on the books? Now, George Gascon's response to the question, as you will hear, was not just misleading, but was astonishing in its level of ignorance of the law. Take a listen.
Let me begin by saying that we did not get rid of gun enhancements, right? We're looking at each individual case and we use them where we think is appropriate. What is often unsaid is that there were gun enhancements that were often used for mere possession of a weapon, primarily when it was the individual happened to be African American or Latino.
After being untruthful about his blanket policy against enhancements, including gun enhancements, he went on to suggest that gun enhancements were used in the past to target Black and Latino youth who merely possessed guns. The problem with that is gun enhancements don't apply to mere possession. That is absolutely untrue. The district attorney should know that. And if he doesn't know that, then that's a big problem.
Enhancements drive incarceration up. That is one of the reasons why we're looking at enhancements very closely.
Now, it is true that the application of a special allegation or enhancement has the potential to increase a person's consequences, including jail time. But that's the whole point of having special allegations. Special allegations define a crime more specifically than the general statement of the crime. For example, robbery versus armed robbery. Let's get into this a little bit more. Let me show you something. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the California Penal Code. This happens to be the 2020 edition that I keep here at home for reference. Let me show you how fine the print is in this book. This is a heavy book. A lot of laws in here. If you go through this book, you will not find the crime of armed robbery. Let me repeat that. You will not find the crime of armed robbery in the Penal Code. Why? Because it doesn't exist. So how do prosecutors charge armed robbery when it occurs? We use special allegations, which Gascon refers to as enhancements. A special allegation is just that. It's an accusation that further defines a crime. That's all it is. Because we don't have a separate entry for every way a crime is committed, we use special allegations to further define the conduct. For example, let's stick with robbery. There are any number of ways a robbery is committed without the use of a weapon. You've heard of strong arm robberies. That's using brute force, pushing, shoving, pocket checking to take personal property of another person. Sometimes a person will utter words of threats to get another person to turn over their property. Robberies that are committed based on force or fear, but not with the use of a weapon. But there are those who carry loaded firearms and use those firearms during the commission of crimes, whether they be robberies or burglaries or sexual assaults. They use the firearm in some manner to gain an advantage over the victim. Well, when that happens, because there's no crime of armed robbery or armed burglary, we allege the crime of robbery and we attach a special allegation to that crime, further alleging that a gun was used. That's it. That's what a special allegation is. It further defines the nature of the crime, which excuses us from having to define every possible crime with every possible type of weapon and put it in the penal code. Now, I think we can all agree that if a person commits a robbery with a gun, that person should be treated differently from someone who chooses to not use a dangerous or deadly weapon. One is far more serious. One risks harm and loss of life to a higher degree than the other. And that's why we use special allegations. So what happens if a person is convicted of robbery with a gun? Well, that person is looking at potentially greater consequence, a potentially longer sentence. It doesn't mean that it will automatically happen, because whether a special allegation is charged or not, it is still up to a judge as to whether to impose the additional time that comes from the allegation. It is not up to the prosecutor. It is ultimately up to a judge. And a judge has the power to ignore the allegation for sentencing purposes. A judge can acknowledge that a gun was used in a particular crime, but for whatever mitigating circumstances the judge finds, doesn't have to impose the additional time. Doesn't that make sense? Why is this controversial? It shouldn't be. This is common sense stuff. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you find value in it. And I hope for those of you who didn't know about special allegations, this has brought about some clarity and some understanding to you. Special allegations are necessary in a state like California that chooses not to define every single possible way a crime can be committed. So I'm John McKinney. You can follow me on Instagram at JohnMcKinney_. I also have a campaign website at McKinney4LA.com. See you next time.